Call the meeting to order. Do a roll call.
Tom Duster,
Here.
Scott Holwick,
Here.
Roger Lane,
Here.
Renee Davis,
Here.
Dan Wolfer,
Here.
Ken Houston,
Here.
Wes Lowry,
Here.
Kevin Bowden,
Here.
Alex Merklin,
Here.
Joe McCloskey,
He's not here.
Chris Huffer,
Here.
Leo Aramo, here.
At the bottom. Council member.
Oh, council member Diane Quinn.
Here.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay, got a quorum. Approval of previous month's meeting. Questions or comments about last month's minutes? Motion to approve?
So.
Second.
All right. Moved in second to approve the minutes.
Can vote.
Yeah, let's vote. I'm busy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay. Kevin, you want to do the water stats report?
Yeah, the flow in the St. Vrain this morning was 56 CFS. The average, 125 day average is 105 CFS for this state. Currently call in the St. Vrain Creek is Highland Lake, which is an 1874 call. Call in the South Platte is Pruitt Inlet Canal, and that's a 1910 priority date. Ralph Price Reservoir at Button Preserve is at an elevation of 6377, or approximately 11,653 acre feet in storage, which is 22 feet down, approximately 4,500 acre feet down. Union Reservoir is at a gauge height of about 18.1, which is 6,475 acre feet in storage, which is down 6,293 acre feet. Basin reservoirs at the end of March were approximately 59% of full. Last year at this time, the reservoirs were at 76% full. So we are a little bit behind where we were last year. Highland Lake, or Highland's taken water, putting it in Highland's system right now. So there's a little bit going down on the senior ditches. Not a lot coming out right now. Snowpack out, or the snow pack, I think Alex will probably give that to you guys here in a minute.
Any comments about Kevin's numbers? Okay. Thanks, Kevin. Any public invited here?
Yeah.
Hi, it's my first meeting. My name is Greg Morrissey. I've been to several county meetings, and Diane knows that, so I'm getting to know the whole system. Just so you guys know, I used to work for Raw Water, so now the water system works too. So I came here to get involved and see what we can do and get to know the system.
You're just an observer.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Development activity. Not much to talk about, is there was?
Not this month. No, we have nothing to present to you.
Okay. Okay. General business, water supply and water storage implementation plan. Alex is gonna cover that.
Yes, could you bring up that presentation? So included in your packets is the City of Longmont's water supply and water shortage implementation plan. It's a plan we put together every year looking at, where are we going into runoff and irrigation season in terms of Longmont storage? What can we anticipate from runoff from snowpack? Could you go to that?
Lower right. There you go.
Oh yeah, that would be good. So I can go at my own pace. So kind of quick summary overview of what we found in going about compiling this plan. In 2025, water supply is projected at 136% of the demand. Snowpack, stream flow, and storage, unfortunately for the St. Vrain Basin, are below average. Our projected 2026 and 2027 projections for water supply are above our trigger points for an increased drought action level. And various factors play a role in evaluating our supply and demand. for Longmont. When evaluating our anticipated supply from year to year, some factors we tend to consider are the level of snowpack, precipitation accumulation, storage, and the CBT quota set by Northern Water. Some of the current basin conditions we're looking at, Kevin actually gave more updated reservoir storage than I did, but Kevin said 58% full. Snow water equivalent, which is kind of what we use as a proxy for snowpack in the St. Vrain Basin, is currently at 80% of the 20-year median. Drier conditions throughout the summer likely have led to lower soil moisture, so we may kind of expect senior water rights to be more in call than anything junior. And so far this year, conditions have not exactly been optimal. Storage for select reservoirs are low, snowpack is low, drier conditions. And so, but even still, we have a very robust water portfolio as the city, and we still believe we can go ahead in this year with a sustainable conservation level, which would be what we were last year. South Platte River Basin snowpack, currently what we're looking at is about 88% of the 20-year median. Upper Colorado River snowpack is about 77% of the 20-year median. And currently this is what the U.S. Drought Monitor is showing for most of Colorado. Thankfully here in Boulder County, we're not looking bad as compared to areas like southern Colorado. And so when kind of looking at what factors could change our outlook, you know, what would have to happen for us to consider going to a higher drought level? And some of those things would be an increase to customer water use. Perhaps if everybody started to irrigate their lawns in the middle of the day, that would not be ideal. A significant reduction in late summer precipitation, abnormal runoff, and disruptive events such as major fires. So I hope I'm not coming across as all doom and gloom here, because we are still doing good. I looked at comparing, you know, our current conditions to years like 2013 and 2017. Well, we did have the flood in 2013 going into runoff. It was one of our drier years on record, and as well as 2017. But in those years, in terms of storage, we were able to fill Button Rock to 100% in both years, and we were still able to remain at a sustainable level.
Do you have the graphs? Are they accessible? There was a couple pages of graphs showing
The snow water equivalent, is that what
Yeah.
you're wondering? Yeah, so that is included in this implementation plan. Or actually, no, those graphs are not. But if you need, I could share with you links to those graphs.
Well, I guess my questions are, as far as the,
Yeah.
you think you can scare them up or not?
Yeah.
They're in the plan?
These graphs are not included in the plan, unfortunately.
No, Roger, the ones you're looking for are in the
Yeah.
plan?
Well, they're in the information that we got from Heather, so. All I was,
Oh, are you
I
wondering
think, like,
about the graphs that are included in the
page-
plan but are
yeah,
not here?
yeah.
Yeah.
23, 24.
I just wanted to know what the numbers were
Yeah.
as
I
far
can
as
look that up.
the demand and the supply, just to kind of, there's dots on that graph, but
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
there you go.
Yes, there we are.
Okay, so, for 2025, what are the dot there, what number is that? Does anybody know exactly what that is?
It's our demand, our projected demand.
How much is it?
Well, the bar on the right side kind of gives it, so around 18,000 acre feet. So we're looking at, and that's assuming about a 2% increase in demand over last year. And that's what we're building into an assumption that would be going forward.
Okay.
So in 2026, we're planning for about a 2% increase and then 2% more the following year.
But anyway, the numbers are still reflecting that sustainability level is appropriate.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And, yeah, so for exact numbers, our demand, what we're projecting is around 17,746 acre feet. So like Wes said, around 18,000 acre feet. Whereas, you know, our calculated supply going into this year is around 24,000 acre feet.
Okay. All right.
I got a quick question, and Alex, I think you said somewhere in there we're looking at a 20-year look back, and you're mentioning 2013 and 2017 as being years that are indicative of really low supply. And I'm old enough to know, and these charts show that we're still looking, at least on the charts, back almost 25 years, because in the early 00s you had the very, 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 very unusual anomaly, which should still be part of our look back, I think. I don't think it would be nice to drop it off and forget about it, but because it's in there, it gives a tampering of the optimist approach. So what do we drop off? Are we only looking back 20 years, Ken, Wes? Or do we actually look back the 25 years that most of these charts seem to indicate we look back?
2002 is that drought year.
Yeah, to formulate our.
Yeah, so
Our
you're asking
opinion.
if the 2002 drought year is included in the model?
Well, it's included in the charts, but I heard reference to 20-year look backs, and that would have dropped that off, which would have
So
kicked
I
off a
think
really
what-
bad year. And,
I think what Alex was trying to say,
yeah.
he believes that the 2025 runoff is going to look more characteristic of 2013 and 2017 than it would in 2002. So we're using kind of a, how did the stream behave in 2013 and 2017?
That makes sense.
And then what did the call then therefore be? Then from that determining what decrees would be in,
Yeah.
and then looking at how can those get filled into the reservoirs and stuff. But you're correct, we do look all the way back to
Yeah.
the beginning point
Just
of
from a-
2002.
Just from a data point basis, that
Yeah.
if we drop that off, it pushes off a really bad year. It
Sure.
makes everything look a little rosier, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think we're quite there yet, because I think it really
Yeah.
informed the last 2.5 decades of water practice and water administration stuff.
Yeah, and because for when looking at the snowpack and the snow water equivalent, they have a 20-year median of
Okay.
which they kind of, you know, compare to what the current year snowpack is. But that 20-year median is actually from 99 to, I believe, 2019, 2020 about. So it's not up to the current year.
Yeah.
It's a 20-year period from 1999 to 2020.
Okay, cool. That's helpful. Thank you. And I agree with the 13 and 17 and the way to look at that and read the tea leaves. I just wasn't sure if you were being consistent there.
I have a question. Kind of leads to a comment and then another question. If we're in a sustainability mode, what happens to the extra water? Do you lease it out?
If possible, we try to lease it out, yes.
Okay. We've had some discussion about having more storage. Is that factored into having more water storage going forward?
We have more space available for storage going into this season, but I don't know, I wouldn't say that our storage capacity really hinders our ability to lease water.
Okay, so you're saying that it's not that we don't have storage, it's that we lease out the water. Is our storage full?
No, but what we are anticipating compared to previous years like 2013 and 2017, certain reservoirs we are anticipating will be full, most importantly Button Rock.
I just noticed in the plan there wasn't necessarily a percentage of storage factored in. And I just think this is something that is gonna get asked at council, from council to the group. Because the more we conserve, the higher the water rates go. So it would be nice to be able to say to the public, yes, but we're storing more. So that they feel like it's a savings account, if you will.
So I think the plan looks, with regards to storage, it looks very specifically at Button Rock. So our primary storage for our water treatment plants. And the projection is that that will be full. And the criteria is that it would be greater than, I believe, 90% full on July 15th. We're expecting this year it'll be filled sometime in June. We're gonna make that a priority to make sure that Button Rock gets filled this year. Then, once that's full, that water will then be available, according to the call, to go into other reservoirs. And many of those other reservoirs are not wholly owned by Longmont. We have some ownership in those private companies. For example, Union Reservoir and McIntosh. But those are private reservoir companies and they fill under their own decree. We too can put some of our water rights in those, and we'll do that to the maximum extent possible. So, but with that being said, it's likely that those lower plains reservoirs may not fill this year where in the years past they have. So there's a pretty good hole in those, call them the plains reservoirs right now. And it's a lot of water to fill, and most of those have a small ditch that fills them. So not only do you have to fill them, you can fill them only so fast. Where like Button Rock is on channel and it can fill very quickly. And so we're expecting, well, there's a lot of interest for especially the community and the people that recreate is, when's Union gonna get water? When is McIntosh? Those are the ones we hear more than anything. And right now it appears that probably will be not very much water going in those until at least a month from now. And then it'll be probably pretty slow. But then hopefully really ramping up in, maybe in June and July.
I noticed the packet mentioned the drawdown on Golden Ponds if needed. Do those ever get filled?
So Golden Ponds, for the past, has usually stayed full, and they're full currently, actually. We can use those in our water treatment plant by exchange, but we typically don't need to. As Alex mentioned, we have such a diverse portfolio. We may have 20 different water rights on a given day that we can use, and so we'll oftentimes choose water rights other than those that would be in Golden Ponds.
Okay. Thanks for informing me.
Yeah, sure.
Golden Ponds is a little bit tougher to use because it's just a smaller, it takes a lot of work
That's kind of where
for a
it's situated
small,
too.
for a small gain on it. You just don't get a whole lot of bang for your buck. for the amount of effort. But we could use it. I mean, we can, but we just don't.
Okay, that's good to know.
Any other questions for this discussion? Okay, I guess you're asking for us to make a recommendation to city council on the proposed plan.
Yes, if we could.
Any comments or questions about the proposal? Somebody want to make a proposal to city council? Yeah.
I'll move that we make a recommendation according to staff's recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second that also.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright. Okay.
I think we'll be taking that like a May 20th or something ish is when we'll take that to council.
So this wasn't pertinent necessarily for the vote or anything, but I mean, if you were just to summarize it in a line, it sounds like we're fine for now. We're looking on
We'll
the
be
horizon to
continuously
some things that
evaluating,
are maybe not as great, but so far we're good.
Yeah. Yep.
It's kind of interesting, you look at those graphs, unless I'm not seeing them correctly, is the demand is not, it's pretty flat,
Hanging
which is
up
kind of
there.
amazing, actually.
It is.
But it is what it is, so. it's
Yeah,
the-
I was curious about that. You said your estimated demand is just a 2% increase over last year? And does that track with growth?
Well, no.
Okay.
Yeah,
It hasn't recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sometimes there's been years where we've seen, I think, lower demand than the previous year, even though we've seen some growth.
I mean, the
So-
weather.
Yeah, and our water conservation group has been doing fabulous.
I was gonna say,
Conservation
shouldn't
elements.
maybe we should give some kudos to Hope, who's not
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
But it seems like the rate of per capita usage is less than the rate of
That's
conservation.
what we continue to
or something.
see.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Or
Yeah.
increases in per capita usage.
And I mean the 20-year look where it is pretty much flat. I think is a huge win
Yeah.
for conservation.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Good news. Okay. Item 9. Alex, you're still involved in that? 9A.
Oh, yes, apologies, I completely spaced on that.
Do you think you were finished?
For
When you're not.
a second, I thought I did.
You might
yeah.
be.
Roger says no.
You're not up to it yet.
Yes. But yeah, so, we're kind of starting to go into the end of this legislative session, but since our last water board meeting, we've had 3 pieces of legislation that are, I think, important to note as they were introduced since our last session. HB 23-1323, the Division of Parks and Wildlife Outdoor Recreation. This was introduced on April 4th, but then postponed indefinitely on April 14th. SB 25-203, Department of Public Health and Environmental Funds Usage Public Water Systems Grant Contracts, introduced in the House on March 21st. SB 25-283, Funding Water Conservation Board Projects. Let me pull up that 25-203 real quick and talk about it. So, Department of Public Health and Environment Funds Usage Public Water Systems Grant Contracts. This is regarding clarifying the Department of Public Health and Environment's authority to use appropriated money for project grants concerning public water system projects for small communities. This doesn't entirely, I guess, concern Longmont right now, as we are not considered a small community, and so that project wouldn't necessarily have much of an impact on the city of Longmont. Let me check real quick. I don't know if so. As of 4/14, that was re-engrossed. And then the other one of note, funding water conservation board projects. That is concerning the Colorado Water Conservation Board operations and in connection therewith funding projects and making an appropriation. So, any questions on those at all?
Questions?
Yeah, I do have one question, actually. Actually, it was about the other one that you didn't mention, so the outdoor recreation one.
Yes.
What bearing does that have on, like, our ability to manage Button Rock separately in a way? I mean, special permitting for fishing and our own rangers and, you know, recreational kind of management and things like that up there. Do we have any idea?
Not much. The reason it was introduced and then pulled right away is Parks and Wildlife didn't quite get out to the public and get input. And so that's what was really the reason it was pulled, just because they introduced a bill that they just thought would automatically go through. And there was some concern. We really have a real good relationship with CPW at Button Rock, and you know, they stock the fish up there for us. We really, I think, function pretty good with them up there. Good partners.
Okay. But with this bill or any others or any, it's not like there's a threat to our ability to manage the recreation and such up there.
And some of which I think we have these here just as a recognition of different things that we just are needing to stay abreast on. Things come up, they pop up at the last minute, and we're you know, just for future reference. I think that's why we've kind of identified some of these here.
There were just a couple lines in at least the summary of that basically said that, you know, CPW is like the sole management agency and no one else shall, you know, almost like no one else shall have, you know, authority or anything. So I was just wondering.
Yes, and because we had been staying aware of that, but we had recently seen that it was postponed indefinitely, and you know, for us that was a good thing, because given the terminologies they were using regarding water was our biggest issue with it. And then below, I've also included legislation that's been presented previously, and at least as of last Friday or last Wednesday, maybe, when this packet was sent out, those are the most recent updates regarding those previous.
There's one there that has no impact at all on Longmont, but is quite interesting, and that's the House Bill 1211, tap fees imposed by special districts. We're not a special district. Special district would be like Left-Hand Water District or Longs Peak Water District. But the reason it's kind of interesting is because it kind of starts stepping on the toes a little bit of the special districts. Primarily around the issue, two big issues. One is it basically explicitly says they can't refuse to issue a tap if they have capacity. I think that came about a little bit because of a special water district up north of Greeley that had committed to serve a subdivision, and then the Glade Reservoir that got postponed quite a bit, and they says, well, until that goes through, we're not gonna issue taps. So a developer had started building a subdivision, and they actually got into litigation. But so that was a little bit of an issue. But the bigger issue in that is how they calculate their tap fee. There's, as you can imagine, everybody's interested in tap fees. If you're the special water district, you want to make sure your tap fees are high enough to cover your cost. If you're trying to get affordable housing, you want them as low as you can. And if in terms of conservation, you want to see conservation push forward. So a lot of different people looking at that particular bill. It touches it while it's only for special districts. We're a little concerned that it's special districts this year. Will it be other cities or other water providers in future years? And these things tend to start small and grow. Reason it's a little bit we're keeping an eye on it is the whole issue of cash in lieu. Now we're looking at how we calculate our cash in lieu, and it's changed over the years. So we'll probably be coming back in June to think more closely of how even this bill and other issues impact us. Uniquely, now that the Windy Gap firming project is actually by June, we're hoping it will be done. Well, not done, but the dam will be topped out and essentially complete. And so that allows us maybe an opportunity to look at other metrics and what we do. So we'll keep an eye on this bill. We'll keep an eye on the Windy Gap project, and we'll come back in June and have more thorough discussion on how all of these things impact us. Just wanted to kind of give you a heads up that I found this, at least personally found that a pretty interesting bill. The state legislator telling a local water provider how it can set its tap fees. That's
But talking about looking at our cash in lieu, I mean, we're about to go into a completely different environment now that Windy Gap is kind of behind us.
correct. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking CBT stuff.
Yeah, looking at CBT, looking at native basin, yeah. And I think it gives us an opportunity to talk about that. And
But,
look at it.
so basically we're gonna be just using a different methodology, and
Yeah.
that's what it amounts to. So, when the gap's done, it's done, you gotta move on. So, ought to be an interesting meeting.
It will be. Yeah. So. seems like-
Any other questions from Alex?
No, but I'd like to thank Alec for creating the links in the document. It makes it very helpful. Just get
Quick comments?
a summary of those, so thank you. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, their summaries are probably better than ours anyway. We can't tell good like they think. Yeah.
Okay,
Now you'll bring up that
9B.
presentation. Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update. I'm gonna cheat and let Northern give the update today. They had a really good update at the spring water users meeting, and I thought I couldn't do as good as that was, so we'll go ahead and play this, and this is, give you the update with Windy Gap this week.
You think that's better than you?
The definition of a project is it has a start date and end date, and we are at the end of the Chimney Hollow Reservoir construction project. We're really starting to
Everybody
see
hear that?
everything to come together in Chimney Hollow.
Crank it up a little.
It's a lot of hard work and effort, and everybody's
Yeah.
extremely proud of what they've been able to accomplish. So there is a growing excitement of seeing everything come full circle to a completed product.
It's a really exciting time on the project. We got 5 months before we start flowing water. Everyone has a really good buzz about them.
So right now, in the downstream grading, we are currently backfilling the remainder of the spillway. Should be completed with that portion of the work towards the end of April. In the valve house, we have the pre-engineered metal building structure completed at this point in time. And we are commissioning the crane and getting everything set and ready to start commissioning the remainder of the valves.
Germans have figured out a way to increase water pressure by 15 times without using any energy.
Right now we
You have no
have
commercial.
all of the pipe that is cut and covered installed. We are working on the remainder of the pipe just outside the downstream portal, and that will come out of the ground once we're inside the tunnel. Right now we have the entirety of the upstream tunnel pipeline installed and backfilled with concrete, and we are working on the inlet outlet tower that is at the end of that feature of works, which will be completed here before the end of April.
For this project, we have several different custom mix designs, including mass concrete, structural concrete, and self-consolidating concrete, known as SCC. This is to aid in all the different applications and structures for the job. To date, we have 65,000 yards placed of all the different types of concrete and 1,000 remaining. So we've had several structures for the project to complete. First big scope was the concrete plinth, which now the dam is being constructed on. We then moved down to the solder dam to do the grout cap. We've done the valve house, we've done the IO works, which consists of the tunnel, thrust blocks around site, pipe encasements, the spillway, and valve vaults, both Carter Lake and Bald Mountain. The big challenge that we've had on this project is the logistics of getting concrete to its placement. For example, the plinth was placed on a 45-degree hillside. We had to use custom placing equipment to reach those heights and place on a slope. The other one was the spillway. Due to its length and narrowness, we were not able to get equipment down in there, so we had to use different means and methods, including concrete pumps and line pumps, to get to the placements.
On the main dam, we are roughly at elevation 5835. We still have about 47 feet left to go. So anticipated completion towards the end of May. We are still actively mining materials out of the quarry, still crushing on a daily basis. Those will end up right about that end of May timeframe. And as far as the saddle dam and the saddle dam access road, that work is complete minus a couple of minor punch out items remaining. We're at that point in the project now that we are starting to shrink our footprint across the entirety of the reservoir in the project. Except for the couple of punch out items that will take some workers, we are starting to downsize on the craft and equipment. Our 777s will become obsolete at some point in time here in the next 2 months, and then we will move to 740s to finish out the remainder of the dam. But we will continue that escalation down kind of gradually and land the plane slowly, so to speak.
As we finish up all of the construction work, our contractors put together a plan for all the testing and commissioning of that work. So we have 16 separate commissioning plans where we go through each piece of infrastructure. We verify that everything is completed to the plan specifications, and then we go through and we test it to make sure that it's doing everything that we expected it to do.
As we enter the final months of construction here, our focus is very quickly turning to startup and commissioning. Here at the end of March, we'll begin dry testing of all of the valves on site. The dry testing consists of opening and closing each valve completely, 3 times each, and measuring the electrical current and the timing of every valve to make sure it works the exact same as it did in the factory. Once we finish dry testing, we'll begin wet testing and leakage testing
Leakage testing will start as early as mid-April, and that'll consist of filling the pipelines, pressure testing everything, making sure they hold water. And then we'll work our way into wet testing beginning in May. The wet testing will consist of opening and closing each valve 3 times, the same as dry testing. And that will lead us into the commissioning of the project and our first fill starting in mid-July.
Chimney Hollow will be operated remotely from Northern Water's Master Control Center, similar to how we operate the rest of our distribution and collection systems. The Northern Water Instrumentation Control Electrical Engineering Group, they've been working over the last year on putting together all of our SCADA system and programming system so that Chimney Hollow can be operated remotely. That system is all up and ready to go right now. We're just waiting to get the final bits of the valve house and tunnel that completed so that we can install our equipment and get ready for the commissioning. So once Barnard has completed all of their testing, Northern Water is going to take control of the system, and we're going to start filling Chimney Hollow Reservoir with sod.
If feet are numb and the sensation won't go away, do this 30-second biblical ritual to relieve nerve pain. Christians, did you know?
Our plan is to fill the reservoir slowly, cautiously, monitor all of the instrumentation and equipment on the dam as the water comes up to make sure that everything is performing as we expected it to be. That first fill plan is something that we put together with our with Stantec, our engineer, and we've been working with the state engineer's office to get that final site on that first fill plan.
So Windy Gap is a junior water right on the Colorado River downstream of Lake Granby. And we pump water from Windy Gap up into Lake Granby. And from there, it's carried in excess capacity in the CBT system to the east slope where we deliver it to participants. And then starting this year, we'll be able to put it into storage in Chimney Hollow Reservoir. One of the advantages of being connected to the CBT system is that we can actually fill Chimney Hollow with CBT water prior to when the junior Windy Gap water right would come into priority. And so that has a couple of big benefits for us. First, it makes room in Lake Granby for us to be able to pump Windy Gap water. And then second, once we pump that Windy Gap up into Lake Granby, we can immediately exchange it for the CBT that we have in Chimney Hollow. And now our CBT is back in Lake Granby and our Windy Gap is in Chimney Hollow, and we're in good shape. So we originally thought it would take around 3 years to fill Chimney Hollow for the first time, but we've been working with the Bureau of Reclamation on the first fill plan, and it looks like the plan at this point is to be able to fill Chimney Hollow half full volume-wise by the end of the 2025 calendar year. And then we should be able to have Chimney Hollow completely full in 2026. So we've been working with the Bureau of Reclamation and also the Windy Gap and Windy Gap Firming Project participants on all the final little details of operations. And when Chimney Hollow is, construction is complete in mid-July, we should be ready to start filling, and that's pretty exciting.
One of the most important aspects of finishing a project and handing it over to operations is making sure that the crews are aware of what they're receiving and properly trained to operate all the equipment. So at Chimney Hollow, we started this years ago with we've dubbed it Chimney Hollow University, where we bring our mechanical crews, our electrical crews, our civil crews out, and they get to see Chimney Hollow as it's built, talk to our engineers, and understand why it was designed the way it is, and that they have first-hand experience of what we've built.
Being a Colorado native, this is a really incredible project to be a part of, as it's not every day you get to wake up and build one of the largest dams in the state.
It's a lot of hard work and effort, and everybody's extremely proud of what they've been able to accomplish. So there is a growing excitement of seeing everything come full circle to a completed product and turning that over to its final use with the owner.
As we progress into the final months of construction, the team is very excited to see all these work scopes come to a conclusion and really see the final product of what we've been working on for the last 4 years here at Chimney Hollow.
I'm really excited to finish the Chimney Hollow Reservoir project. And the other thing that's really great is we actually have a ton of water right now to put into the reservoir. We have a good snowpack, our local reservoirs are full, and we are looking to get Chimney Hollow half full by the end of the calendar year. I'm mostly excited for our participants who are going to get to start realizing the value of this project after working with Northern Water so long and contributing so much money to make this project a reality.
Well done.
Yeah, I thought it
A lot
was
of information.
really good, yeah. And I think looking at that quarry is kind of amazing too. That's something to see. And also, you know, as we heard in there, we're looking at getting, originally we're gonna try to put 35 to 40,000 acre feet in there, but the Bureau of Reclamation's informed the district that they're gonna try to put 50,000 acre feet in this year, so that's really, really good. Actually, a little bit of a surprise to us. And on top of that, right now, we just turned on the Windy Gap pumps last week. So we're actually pumping some Windy Gap water. So we'll actually be able to put Windy Gap water in it instead of pre-positioned CBT water. It won't be that much, but at least there will be some Windy Gap water put in this year. So, and actually, if we were able to pump for a little while here, it'll be a little difficult because depending on how early in July we can put water in it. It may get too late to put it in it, but depends on when we start. But at least we're getting some pumped when you get water this year. So that's all we got on that project.
Well, I also noticed that Denver County is putting out information, you know, about the recreational use of the facility starting next year too. So they're already pushing that.
Yeah, they're actually, and they're asking for input as well. I think probably said a couple times that one of the real benefits, obviously the water supply is the real benefit to Longmont, but the side benefit is a recreational area that is as close to Longmont as is any of the other cities, and our citizens will be able to go up there, and it's going to be a really top-notch recreational area as well. So, looking good.
Any other comments? Yes. Pretty exciting things coming our way. So, any questions or comments about our status report, what we have coming up? I don't see anything in there that jumps at me, so. Okay. Any other informational items that we need to talk about, Ken?
No, I have none.
And item 12, cash and lieu review will be, next one will be June, when we talked about what we're gonna do.
Going forward.
Yeah, you know, what we're gonna charge as far as cash and lieu, that'll be interesting, so. And I don't know any other future water board projects we're gonna wanna talk about right now, so we have some comments.
Can you give an understand or an explanation of what's going on at Gross Reservoir, or maybe what's not going on at Gross Reservoir?
Yeah, a little bit. It really completely revolves around federal permitting. You probably saw in the news there's a court order for them to basically shut down almost like overnight, which Denver Water did try to explain to the court that you can't just shut a big project like that down and have a safe result. But they were still ordered to shut down. They were given 14 days to wrap things up, and they actually let a lot of the workers go. But then it was appealed from the district court up to appellate court, and then the appellate court said they could continue on past the 14 days. There really isn't an end date on when they have to stop, but they're asked. The court said, "Well, you need to let us know what it's going to take to make it safe." One of the problems was the spillway was gone. I mean, part of the work to enlarge the reservoir, they had to strip the face of the old concrete dam and take out the spillway, and I believe, don't quote me because I don't know that great about, I think it's an over the spillway step chute that when it's done will be completed. The real reason it was originally, the original district court stopped it was because of the claim that the Bureau or Corps of Engineers did not do a sufficient environmental analysis of all the alternatives. That's going to be worked out in the courts, so whether or not that's true or not. So yeah, it's not sure where it'll go in the end right. But right now, as far as I know, right now they're still working because they at least need to make it safe. So that's where it's at. The courts have said, Denver's working on it at their own risk. So there is, ironically, one of the things that came up was the impact of removal of the trees in the dam footprint, which honestly Denver should have done a long time ago before they started. The courts will just have to look at, and it's with the federal permitting, it's really kind of a weird thing. The lawsuit isn't really against Denver Water. The lawsuit is against the Bureau, the Corps of Engineers, because they're the ones that issued the permit. And so it's technically the Corps of Engineers is the one that U.S. Attorney General's office is the one that has to defend that. That's really typically not how it happens. It's, they lead the charge in the court, but the project proponent greatly supports the court effort. Real similar to what happened to the Windy Gap Firming project. As soon as we got a permit, as soon as we were ready to start construction, the opponents always wait until they wait until you've got to a point where it costs you money. For Denver, it really costs money, but to kind of help force a settlement. In the case of Windy Gap, we were able to settle early on in the court process, and again, the project proponents, Windy Gap, supported in our case, the Bureau of Reclamation, and then NISP just did. Same thing happened with the NISP project up at the Glade Reservoir. They did settle as well. So that project's going forward. Yeah, it cost them $100 million. I thought $15 million for Windy Gap was a lot of money until I heard $100 million for Glade, and I have no idea where Denver's final result will be. I believe it will move forward, but I'm not.
What percent is that? I mean, what's the completion date? If there was no stoppage, how far out was that going to be, or do you know?
I don't know, but Denver had quite a bit left to go, so they were probably at least 2 to 3 years out from finishing. And of course, Glade Reservoir, and this project hasn't started yet.
Yeah.
But now they can start now. And it's a little different with Gross Reservoir in that it also involves the FERC, because there's a hydropower plant there, so they have a FERC license. And how much the FERC's permit expires, and so FERC's permit to enlarge the reservoir, it had to start by a certain date and had to finish by a certain date. And I presume FERC will extend it, I don't know. You know, their Denver Water's caught in they don't get it done by the time the FERC permit expires, which I don't know what FERC can do at that point if it's 9/10 done. It's federal permitting's I'm not the expert. I just know how crazy it is.
Thanks for the update.
Yeah.
That makes our project, Windy Gap and Chimney Hollow, I'm glad we didn't go through some of the stuff they're going through.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're so close to being done.
Yeah.
Within a month.
Yeah.
And it's a much better place to be. Yeah, it is.
Okay. We're at the end of our agenda. Any other comments or?
I was just gonna mention that the city clerk's office is going through all the applications for the water board vacancy, and they're just kind of validating that the applicants all meet the criteria. And so we'll probably be sharing with you in the course of the next several weeks what that looks like. I think in the past you've done some interviews, but it depends on who applied and how many. I think in the past sometimes some of the water board would do interviews like a little bit before a meeting or after. I think we've done it both ways. So just be aware that we'll share that with you when we get more information as far as how many there are and when you might be doing that. And hopefully it'll get, if it comes to pass, the water board needs to, if there's interviews are needed, then the board that does the interview will submit a recommendation to council, and then council will then interview those individuals, and then they'll make a decision on who to appoint, probably in June. So it's just kind of the steps, but I think the application opening was over last Friday at 5 p.m. So I don't know how many we received or anything else, but we'll keep you up to date when we know more.
Just for everybody's information, and I didn't realize this a month ago, but I'm eligible for another term because I took over a partial term. So I submitted my application. I don't want to surprise anybody. It kind of surprised me that I was able to do that. So anyway, we'll just see where it goes. But, okay. Any other comments from the
No.
visitor? Okay.
I'll keep coming, learn some more.
Yeah, well, thank you. All right, with that, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you,
Until the
Mr.
next
Chairman.
month.